Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, what is good, y'all? What is good? It is May 31st, 2026. All right. We are going to be tapping into another episode of Wyckoff Sundays. We're going to be reviewing what happened on the last episode of Wyckoff Sundays. We're going to be reviewing what can potentially be happening for this coming weeks, right? We're obviously mostly doing like higher time frame analysis here, right? So, we're going to be sticking mostly to the daily 4 hour, max 2 hour, and then obviously, the weekly as well. We're going to be tapping into because I've definitely seen some interesting stuff across the board here, right? But obviously, first, as always, we're going to go ahead and start off with some reviews of what we were looking for in our last episode. All right, as you guys can see here, episode 17. We did about 2 weeks ago, right? We didn't end up doing the one last week as, I've been very busy with my birthday and stuff. Pretty much been doing things all week, seeing different people, seeing family, which has been great. It's been a good birthday week. But yeah, honestly, what's funny is that a lot of the things that we spoke about on this Wyckoff Sunday continue to play out slash really just took a little bit more time to happen, but they did happen the way that we were looking for them to, right? So for example, we have dollar, which we'll start off with. So dollar on Wyckoff Sundays, really our main idea was that there was some potential for this current low that we've seen to be the bottom for now. But what we also said that we wanted to see some signs of distribution to go ahead and pull back into deeper levels so that we can go ahead and look to long this in the bigger picture, right? So I believe where do we got the smaller time frame, or sorry, the real idea here. I just want to make sure we got it right at the right point. Um, Let me see here.
Phase B here, and then we get a spring. That's like really the only other thing I could see. But honestly, I think with the way that we're looking now, I mean, like, there's no reason for us to really not like think that this trend is going to continue to the upside. Why do I say that? Because it was, like I said, 8 times out of 10, right? That is what will happen. That we were wrong and that we could actually see a continuation and that could have actually been the bottom for the rest of the week, right? And obviously that is what ended up happening. So for those of you guys that were on the live stream on Tuesday, if you guys remember, we did end up saying that then and being like, you know what, there's a
I
real
just want to
possibility.
find the
So
part
same
within
idea
here.
here as our sweep.
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry. We're supposed to be we're looking all the way over here. That's the review section from episode 16. So we're going to take a look at where we actually had here we have the actual analysis for the week. So here we could see dollar. Our main idea was that we were looking for the reaccumulation in general for this, right? So as you guys can see here, right, in our markup, I'll zoom in here for y'all a little bit, right? Our idea was essentially to see some signs of distribution above this previous high, right? Potentially getting back up into that gap, which is why you can see we have the distribution, really just beginning here, right? And then whenever that ends up finishing distributing, our idea is that we can potentially see pushes lower, head towards 98.78, towards like 98.6, right? Somewhere around there. To then go ahead and reaccumulate and see this continue to go long. So again, playing off of the idea that this is potentially a bottom, right? Seeing a really big impulse and then looking for the distribution to really happen to then come down, right? So if we actually go to what dollar really did, over the last 2 weeks, it's really just been distributing for that, I believe, right? So we can see here now when it comes to this dollar move here, that same distribution zone that we've been looking at has been starting to play out over the coming weeks. We did end up having like one more rally at the end of last week to go ahead and drive above. I was kind of hoping this gap here could hold, but no such luck. We ended up just seeing the market do one more up thrust, there above the high. And now we're finally really getting below the low of the distribution, right? And this is really the area where now, like, I don't really expect this exact low here to be the bottom, but I do expect maybe one more low, and then maybe from there we can start to see the signs of accumulation to go higher. It's not going to be about catching the bottom, though, guys, right? It's really just going to be about anticipating that reaccumulation to happen and waiting for that proper institutional candle to form. And then obviously have the impulsive phase and look for the mitigation phase of that level, right? Especially when we're dealing with, let's say, trying to play off of a imbalance or something like that, versus like if we're in a more extreme area, yeah, we can potentially just buy off of levels like this. But when we're like kind of just potentially just more of in a reaccumulation phase, then we want to make sure we got the proper candles, proper sweeps, right? Proper impulsive phases as well, to really back up our claim that this can be the bottom, right? But that's really what we're looking for. So now I think that distribution that we were looking for here has really started to play out, and now we're actually starting to really get below the low of that distribution, right? So we're really trying to see if that can end up being a zone for us to actually reaccumulate from and continue to create more pushes higher, right? So let's go ahead and do this. Let me go ahead and have this gap here, right? And so this is really that same, relatively the same imbalanced area, right? Really, I think we were looking a little bit lower. This is really the same relative imbalance area that we could react from, right? A lot of the times when we see reaccumulations take place, they take place around the 38% retracement. So if we go from this low all the way up until this high, we can see we're really starting to get there, right? And I think filling this gap is really going to give us just that extra little bit. We can see we did tap into the 38 there, right? But I think that getting us to go below this level maybe could end up being the next push up if this is going to be a reaccumulation. If this is going to be a full on, like, a bigger pullback, then again, obviously it's going to be the more extreme areas, right? So these are the main two zones that I'm really looking for, right? Reaccumulation idea would be between the 38.2 and the 50, right? If we do get a proper reaccumulation set up down here, it would probably react around those levels. And if we're looking for a full on, like I guess you could say retracement or like a full on, push back down towards these levels, I think the 70% to the 886 is obviously going to be like, the most ideal for retracements. But for me right now, guys, given how long it took us to distribute here, I do kind of think it's going to be more of a reaccumulation play that just sweeps the low and then continues to go higher, right? As opposed to one that like we get a full on, like a reaccumulation kind of happen, like that comes all the way deep. I think it's going to be like using all these lows here as liquidity, right? Because look at how many lows we have here, right? How many times do we tap back into these same levels, right? One, two, three, four, five times, right? Before we finally broke through. So I would really love to see us just again, probably just sweep the low of that wick on the 4 hour would be my best idea, I would say, right? Really get a stronger close maybe in the next daily candle down here. And then maybe in the following candle, we can actually end up seeing dollar start to work its way higher. So we'll see if that will end up happening there for dollar. All right. Next pair we're going to be looking at is going to be the currencies, right? So we were looking at things like EU, GU, stuff like that, right? So we spoke about EU here. I definitely still think that this is still in the process of playing out. So as we look here, Euro USD, since the moment that we had this Wyckoff Sunday 2 weeks ago, hasn't really moved too much, right? Again, like we can see that this is where we had that last week, and then now we just kind of consolidated all week here, right? Until finally now we're starting to get above. So I think that this might be the beginning of also a redistribution, right? So maybe this here ends up being like an accumulation, and then we end up making our way higher to then maybe redistribute and head to the downside, right? I definitely think that coming back into this push to the upside here is going to be the motive for Euro USD, right? So I think Euro USD is just getting ready for its next push to the downside. So we should definitely be paying attention to this next week. And I do think it'll probably happen, not next week, sorry, this week coming, right? Keep in mind that this week coming is also NFP week, right? So obviously, a lot of the big moves that happen in the market, right? The continuation moves, whatever it might be, are really brought forward with this, right? I believe it is NFP week. I'm pretty sure I'm not mistaken. We'll take a double check here after this security verification, I guess. Okay, here we go. Let's take a double check here. I just want to look at the news for us for this week. Right, we'll go to Friday. And yes, we do have NFP this week. What other news events have we got? We have that. That's nothing. ISM services is something there. And yeah, that's about it. ISM manufacturing there as well, right? So these can definitely both be levels that can make sense for us to continue to go long. With ISM here, ISM there, and with the NFP employment change, right? I think all those can be pretty clean for us to go ahead and look for these moves that we're talking about to happen, right? So if we end up seeing, like I said over here, right, real pullbacks back into this area, this is really what I wanted personally, for this, right? Is like from 2 weeks ago. So that's what I mean. Like last week, not too much happened. Last week was definitely a lot more of a consolidation type of week. Other than with what I believe the next pair that I'm going to go into here. Well, actually, sorry, we'll still stick with currencies, but metals next. Metals actually had some really great moves that we also spoke about on this Wyckoff Sundays. And so we'll go ahead and look at that in a second. But yeah, we have GU as well, right? Same idea. We wanted to see more so the gap here, Phil. I believe we're already past that gap at the moment. So GU is again, it's always been the stronger of the pairs, right? But yeah, we are a little bit past that gap that we were looking. Actually, I guess we just perfectly filled it, to be honest. That was really the zone, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is, we'll check the daily here. Yeah, so actually we're just filling that gap now, right? We have a really nice daily institutional candle that's at the top of that gap. So maybe it could be that that holds. But honestly, given what I saw with EU, I'd rather see one more. Especially given that GU is the stronger pair. I would probably like to see one more, but I won't lie. This institutional candle here is very nice. This liquidity buildup here on the daily is also very nice. So definitely this could be the top. It has reason to be the top. But I think looking at the other pairs, maybe the context is we're going to see one more sweep, right? But either way, I definitely think that we can use if we are going to look for like maybe this to go right at open, and for price to just quickly reaccumulate, on dollar, then maybe this GU, daily candle can end up being a good idea, right? But either way, right? I think even if it takes two attempts to catch this, I think it's going to be worth it because if GU does head to the downside, it'll be big. But personally, I'd rather use EU for this idea. So we'll see. We'll see if we're right about getting the again, first drive down, second drive down. Hopefully, we can get our third to then just go ahead and follow this structure that we've started, right? So fingers crossed, right? Given that we have a lot of wicks here to the downside on EU and like, even with actually I guess GU has a pretty good candle there. But with EU at least, again, attacking wicks like these ones, I think can be good incentives or like good liquidity zones to go ahead and trade from and into, right? So that's that there. We're gonna go into next one now, right? So GU, right? We spoke about a lot of the currencies and they were very, very similar. So I won't bore you guys with all of them, right? But I believe they're all still literally set up the exact same way. So I do think it can be this coming week. Ooh, it looks like NU really, really rocketed through, but left behind very equal lows here, right? Very equal lows. So this can definitely be an incentive as well. Maybe we do end up actually, I was waiting for us to get above this high here and we never did. Maybe that is the incentive there, right? So I think this kind of supports the theory of seeing dollar go ahead and have like one more sweep down, right? Um, so yeah, sorry, I'm just getting a call here from the business. I'm just gonna get all right. So like I was saying, right here we end up having the what's it called? One more sweep down, then that could end up again aligning with a lot of these things that we're seeing, right? AU as well. Looks like we created a lot of consolidation, right? Sweeping that and stuff, I think really is what I'm going to be looking for in this coming trading week. All right. And yeah, that's really the idea there. Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. So yeah, so there's that. What else is there going on here? Oh, yes. Now we're going to go into gold and silver, right? So we're going to start off with gold here as soon as I can find it. Right. So hopefully you guys are kind of already, again, we kind of wrapped up currency there, right? So dollar, we're looking for that reaccumulation to happen. We had the distribution happen over the last 2 weeks. So now seeing us come back down into these levels can potentially give us the idea for, another impulse to the upside, right? Now looking at metals, right? This is what we were looking for on that session, right? People asked a lot of questions about this. What we were saying was that we had this low here. We were saying this low was probably not going to hold and that we would end up getting deeper into this zone here below, right? So here we can see there, right? This is what we were looking at for the bigger zone, right? So this area here, right, was really, again, the structural low that created the new high, right? And that's what we kept really stressing, about this, right?
Until we break this low here, I'm going to stick with the fact that this distribution could potentially turn into an accumulation as we get into this level. So I'm going to stick with that for gold, right? I know it's counterintuitive to dollar, but again, they tend.
Yeah, and yeah, again, it is counterintuitive to dollar, but that is how things ended up playing out here, for gold, right? So again, we came right back into the bottom of this level. We ended up getting into a very extreme area there. getting below pretty much each piece of internal liquidity, right? We had a beautiful institutional candle here on the 4 hour to the downside, right? On the daily, there wasn't really a close, but yeah, 4 hour had a great down candle there before seeing this rally, right? We held up a lot of liquidity down here. So it looked really good, right? It looked really good to see that continue to go long. And this was really, again, that very extreme area for the zone that we were talking about there on gold, right? So seeing how that's played out now, I definitely think that this can end up being a level for us to actually trade into. So for next week, getting into it, right, this can basically end up being a nice type one entry model, for us, right? So even just as it is, because we have this previous area, right? We have the manipulation down here, right? We have the impulsive phase here, and then we'll come back into that level, right? I can't lie. It obviously would have been better if we didn't, take this liquidity. We can see that price did get above with that push to the upside. But again, if we are going to be right about this just being a pullback to then go long, which it does look like more and more like that is what's happening, then I think this can be a very strong level. So definitely pay attention to this next week on gold, especially given that we are now expecting, again, the a little bit more of a push down from dollar that might help out. That might help out with this push to the upside that we're looking for on gold. All right. Cool, cool, cool. So there's gold. All right, we're gonna go into silver. Right. Silver was really the similar idea, right? Personally, I did want to see, silver go ahead and break this low at first, but again, this is totally still valid as a structural level. Wow, for once, it looks like gold is more bullish than silver, which it hasn't been like that for a while with that push to the upside. So maybe silver can be something maybe we pay attention to, or if gold doesn't necessarily give us the best pullback, maybe silver can be something we play. Again, what I was saying with silver last time, I believe, was that. So let's go ahead and take a look at silver here. Oh no, I guess I wasn't looking to break the low. I was really just looking for this low here to be held. And so far, it is looking pretty good for that low to be held, right? We are reacting pretty nicely off of it. We can see, lows being swept, right, while the highs are staying intact. So that's very indicative of accumulation, right? When we have sellers that are being allowed to stay in the market, but buyers are being constantly manipulated out, it's a pretty big sign and symptom that we might be seeing this next impulse to the upside happen very soon, right? So let's see if silver can end up holding those lows, and then we'll go there, right? But again, I do think that yeah, this level here, sorry, this level here on silver, very similar to gold, we'd be looking for the pullbacks to come back into. And again, this is already kind of looking like a type one setup, right? As I was saying before, right? We have this extreme area. We have this internal low here that's being swept, right? We have this new high here that's being created. So if we saw this pullback back in here, this would already be a type one setup relative to this low. So that's a really good look for us to actually look for to potentially attack these highs right here at around 79. So that'll be a very good target for us to buy into, right? Cool, cool, cool. So that is silver there, right? Next up, we spoke about indices, I believe, right? We spoke a little bit more about gold here. But yeah, that was really the idea there that we were saying, right? Obviously, the other possibilities that we're making a new low, but for me, I think that until we break the structure, we're going to be looking for gold to hold that level and for silver to hold that level. And one thing that's really important too is like how slow we've been coming into that structural low that we've been talking about for weeks now, right? How slow we're coming into it is a really good sign for a potential big move to come, I would say, right? So we'll see how it goes, right? And then there was Nasdaq. Right. So we were looking at NASDAQ on both sides, really. We were looking for the longs and the shorts in terms of depending on how it played out. I believe the longs were what played out the following week. Right over here, right? So we spoke about, was it this one? Let's go to a better NAS chart here. Okay, yeah. So it was here, right? So we were looking at this low to be taken, right? I believe so. Yeah, I think this is the exact markup we might have done on NASDAQ here. Let's take a look actually to make sure.
We're pushing down is pretty aggressive. And the 4 hour is not exactly showing me strong candles yet. If we do end up getting down and then accumulating without breaking this low, then perfect, right? But if this low breaks, that's a break in order flow for me. And that's going to mean that we can potentially look for the shorts to potentially actually maybe happen.
All right, so here's the thing here, right? When with NASDAQ, sorry, one sec. Sorry, there's just something going on with the business right now. But yeah, so again, Nasdaq here, we were looking initially for the shorts, right? Because of the way that some of those candles were printing. We can see that this was the yellow box that we marked up on that level. Price pulled back perfectly into there and came down. What we did say again, right there in that clip was if we do end up breaking this low, then that's going to be a break in order flow. Now, I want you guys to understand it's not just about breaking the low, but it's about are we really accepting below these levels? Like, are we really holding below lows, right? If we see this break here, people mistakenly think of this as a break in structure, but you got to understand how different that this low being broken is compared to a break in structure, right? Because here we're actually seeing the market just, essentially was only there for a very short amount of time, right? On the 4 hour, it like was literally just, it came down there for a wick and then it just never, like came back, to that level, right? So because that's the case, because we didn't really get like price like holding below here. Like if we were down here and we like started holding and then we pull back, that would have been like the best indication that we're going to drop. But instead, what happened, right? Price literally just barely poked below that level, right? Where people would assume that structural low would be, right? And then started to head back to the upside, right? So after that, this bullish order flow, sorry, this bearish order flow ended up getting broken over here, and we could see how price holds above, right? See how price holds above that level of order flow there, right? It's very different than what we actually saw happen down here. So two completely different scenarios that we obviously have to keep in mind. And from there now, I mean, we're still looking bullish, right? Same with S&P, right? Still looking, bullish, right? Really just barely took out that low. And then now, we're continuing to trend higher. At the moment, there's really no reason to look for sales at all. This was the zone that we looked for here on US 30, I believe, as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at when we spoke about US 30. Yeah, so it was this level here, right? So as you guys can see, this push to the downside here was really our idea for longs, right? As long as that held, then we were looking to see that continue, I believe.
We would be expecting them to come lower, right? If dollar is going to be bottoming out at that level, right? The same thing with S&P,
Wait, let's see what we
truly
really said about
bottomed
US
out
30 here.
that we can potentially look for the exactly showing strength in these highs, right? It's looking a lot more
That's true though. Yeah, so over here on US
shows.
30, we said that if we went ahead and broke the order flow again, like we said, to the downside over here, that we'd be looking to, again, with this red zone here for it to actually continue to buy. If it did, then again, it's still looking bullish, but otherwise, then maybe, because of the way that these highs were looking, institutional candles here, institutional candle there, right? Manipulation there, that we might be seeing the sell-offs come soon, right? But again, I would say at the moment, with after having reacted from here, there's no reason to look for that in these highs. We're holding very well above previous highs in comparison, right? Like obviously, look at the way that this higher high is created compared to the way that this higher high is created, right? Price is really holding a lot stronger here now in comparison to what it was a few weeks ago. It was literally just barely going above, barely going above, barely going above. It was just not clean, right? And so because of that, seeing that continue to the upside now looks much more likely. If we end up getting an institutional candle above highs during the week, that could potentially change things, right? But as of right now, the way that price is currently looking, I can't really say that it is anything but bullish at the moment with all of these, right? With the way that we made these highs and we're really like, continuing above those highs, to me, it's looking very, very bullish, as price continues to go higher there, right? Next point here is going to be what else do we have? I believe we had we just went back to crypto, right? So crypto here, again, for me, here's where we spoke about actually, we didn't actually get into crypto in terms of what we were looking for. But crypto is actually going to be one of the more interesting ones that I really want you guys to pay attention to, because it's not looking too great for crypto at the moment, right? Looking at this weekly time frame here, there's a real chance that we might have topped out. And I was just noticing seeing this beautiful weekly institutional candle right here inside of the highs. We can see that we had this trap candle here on the weekly, and then we go ahead, we take the high of both of those, and then we start to sell off, right? Now we haven't actually tested back into this level. So I do think at some point, I mean, it could be that we just drop off, but I do think at some point we will most likely get up into there and then, potentially get the next push to the downside, right? To maybe go ahead and take out this wick, right? By the looks of it to me on the weekly, we've got some chances for this to now start to become a redistribution. So accumulation down here turning into a distribution up there is what it's starting to look like, right? Even when we were calling out buys when we first started the Wyckoff Sundays, all the way down here, right? Back at like 60K, 61K, 62K, and we were looking to target all the way up to 80. Price perfectly got up to 80, and now it's starting to have that push to the downside. So this is kind of starting to look a little bit more like potential redistribution ideas, right? Where we're really just getting back into gaps and reacting off of those gaps with institutional candles. That's exactly the red flag that we wouldn't really want to see for the bulls, right? That's more so what the bears would want to see in order to see price get lower. And then maybe again from there, 50, like 55, right? A little bit under 55, 50 could end up being areas where we look to, again, buy this and continue to buy it longer term. But right now, it's looking a little bit more, like BTC is starting to gain some weakness, right? Especially with seeing that weekly institutional candle there on BTC. And like we spoke about before as well with like ETH and stuff, right? ETH on the daily, again, not looking too great, right? Big institutional candle up here, right, that we reacted off of. I mean, that gives some real potential for this whole thing to be a redistribution. So definitely keeping on the lookout, for ETH here, to see if, again, we do end up getting pushes lower. If we start to break through this high, if BTC breaks through that high, then that's going to pretty much invalidate the idea. But for now, I do think that this could end up being a zone that maybe, we sell from, or like maybe we use as a target to buy into if we get the right price action, down here, right? But I do think that with the way these highs happened here, we should be able to get back up into this level, and continue to go down, right? But I do like this personally to go lower. So now I'm really switching my direction there on BTC from, the bulls to the bears, and potentially going ahead and seeing if we can target eventually down at 60K now that we've seen this, how fast this push to the upside was, how clean the institutional candle was that really held up with BTC. So yeah, that's really what I'm thinking there for crypto. All right. So now we've gone through dollar. All right, we've gone through so we've gone through dollar, we've gone through EU, GU, AU, and NU. We'll go through, actually, I believe we haven't gone through UCAD yet, so we do need to tap into that. So USD CAD, right? Again, just the accumulation that we spoke about in, I believe it was Wyckoff Sundays, maybe episode 16, maybe 15. This accumulation has just been going, right? It's just been ripping, which is great, right? We also have started to have like a distribution start to happen over here. So again, like same with dollar, like starting to come lower to really accumulate, I think looks pretty good for it. And maybe the zone that we called out, I believe it was just last time, right? On episode 16 or 17, it was episode 17. We called out this level as a potential long. So maybe we end up getting down into there, especially given that we have like all these equal lows that are sitting right here. Perhaps that can end up being a target for us to go ahead and reaccumulate from, right? So again, I do really like the idea for dollar sell-offs to have some of these things get their proper pullbacks and then for us to be able to position longer term. Looks like USD Chef really making its way lower here. This can also be another great one, right? Great liquidity sitting up above, right? Either one, we end up reacting from this level. If that bottom that we're thinking is the bottom on dollar ends up sticking, then this is probably going to be where we react from, right? Pull back and then push back up, right? If not, then it would end up being one more drive down, get back into this extreme area, and then go long, right? So it is possible this is an STM phase B to a UT, and we have yet to have a spring, right? That's also possible. But for me with USD Chef, I'm going to play it as if dollar's current bottom is in. But we'll see. We'll see what happens when dollar gets, we obviously want to align these together, right? So if dollar is not in its zone and USD Chef gets in its zone, I'm not going to take USD Chef just because of that. I want dollar to also be in its zone for the trade to be taken. So if we don't see these two align, then, maybe it could mean that USD Chef just has a deeper way to go, right? Because when we look at UChef, it's at a much lower place compared to where dollar is, itself, right? So yeah, definitely an interesting, potential setup for us to continue to look into here, right? So we'll see what ends up happening with you, Chef, and with you, CAD. But yeah, that's pretty much our predictions for the week, guys, in general, right? I mean, with US 30, and all these other pairs, right? Again, most likely we're just going to be looking for more pullbacks to buy, right? S&P as well, more pullbacks to buy, right? That we're just looking for excuses to buy really at this point. when it comes to these indices, right? And then when it comes to gold and silver, I would say these are probably going to be the ones to watch for the week, especially, right? And then obviously dollar as well. If we can get a good reaccumulation, then all the rest of those things are really going to play out beautifully for us, to give us a good long-term position to the upside, right? So yeah, guys, went through that pretty well. We just put together both the review of last week and kind of what we were thinking to see happen because really it's the plan hasn't really changed from episode 17, actually. Again, a lot of these things we were already looking for, we were already talking about, and now we're just kind of watching it play out over time, right? So understand this is a lot of the time how the market goes, right? Sometimes we'll have an idea and that won't play out for another couple weeks or so, right? Because the market is distributing, the market is accumulating, and so on and so forth, right? That takes place over time. So the things we've been talking about, gold, dollar, all this stuff is really still on the same page as it always has been, but now it's starting to look a lot more like a reality than it did before, right? Before we were just kind of building a narrative. Now it's starting to look a lot more plausible as time goes on, especially when it comes to gold and silver. Now that we've had that reaction off of the bottom of that low, so seeing that reaction there, I think is going to be great and give us an opportunity to follow up this coming week. But only time will tell, right? Only time will tell, guys. So that's it from me today. All right. Hopefully you guys follow the plan this week. Hopefully you guys kill it this week. And I'll see you guys on the live on Tuesday. Much love, much appreciation. Peace out. Deuces, y'all.